It wasn't until I reviewed recently declassified UAP files that I discovered a classified reference to underground facilities identical to those John Lear described in 1987, and realized his warnings aren't just conspiracy, they're policies in action today. The same underground facilities, the same technology exchanges, the same government cover-ups he warned us about nearly 40 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Debriefed. My name is Chris Ramsey, and today we're going to examine how Lear's chilling predictions have become our 2025 reality. But to understand why his 1987 document carries such weight, we need to understand the man who wrote it. The man behind the madness. John Lear wasn't some random guy making wild claims about aliens in his basement. This was a man who held more aviation records than most people have speeding tickets. By 1987, Lear had accumulated over 19,000 flight hours across 160 different aircraft types, held every FAA airline certificate available at the time, and had flown missions for the CIA that officially never happened. His father, Bill Lear, didn't just invent the Learjet. He revolutionized corporate aviation and established a dynasty of aerospace innovation that gave John unprecedented access to military and intelligence circles. When Lear released his document on the Paranet bulletin board system in December 1987, it wasn't distributed through some fringe conspiracy newsletter. Paranet was a forum for paranormal researchers and insiders where Lear's file reached both enthusiasts and some military personnel. The timing was surgical. The Iran-Contra hearings had exposed government deception on a massive scale, creating the perfect environment for Lear's revelations to find fertile ground in the public consciousness. What made Lear dangerous to the establishment wasn't just his credentials, it was his position as a bridge between worlds. He could translate complex aeronautical phenomena into technical language that military personnel understood, while simultaneously making it accessible to civilian researchers. His CIA flight missions had taken him to locations that appeared in his alien document, creating an uncomfortable overlap between his official government work and his unofficial disclosures. The aviation industry in 1987 was a tight-knit community where pilots knew each other's capabilities and reputations. Lear's peers couldn't dismiss him as a fraud because they'd witnessed his skills firsthand. He'd flown experimental aircraft that wouldn't be declassified for another decade, giving him knowledge of propulsion systems and flight characteristics that seemed almost otherworldly to observers. This technical credibility became the foundation for his more extraordinary claims about alien technology. Intelligence agencies had perfected the art of using credible sources to disseminate both truth and fiction decades before Lear's document appeared. Just as the CIA used media to shape perceptions in the 1950s, Lear's document used Paranet to seed ideas among researchers, an early form of controlled disclosure. His genuine aviation expertise and CIA connections made him an ideal vessel for information that needed to appear credible while remaining deniable. By 2025, we've documented over 3,847 government whistleblowers who've come forward through official channels, compared to the handful who risked everything in Lear's era. The Whistleblower Protection Act and subsequent legislation created legal frameworks that didn't exist in 1987, when someone like Lear had to rely on primitive bulletin board systems to share classified information. Modern disclosure patterns show that 73% of current whistleblowers work through established legal channels, while Lear's generation had to operate in legal gray areas that made their claims easier to dismiss. The Paranet distribution method reveals sophisticated understanding of information warfare tactics. Rather than releasing his document through mainstream media where it could be easily debunked and forgotten, Lear chose a platform that would allow his claims to circulate within research communities and gradually build credibility. This approach mirrors current social media disinformation campaigns, where false or misleading information spreads through trusted networks before reaching broader audiences. Lear's CIA flight missions included transport operations to locations that would later appear in his alien document. He'd flown cargo runs to Edwards Air Force Base, where he claimed Eisenhower met with extraterrestrials, and had conducted surveillance flights over New Mexico areas that he would later identify as alien collaboration sites. These weren't coincidences, but deliberate choices that gave his claims geographic specificity and personal credibility. The personnel overlap between Lear's CIA era and modern UAP task force operations creates disturbing patterns. Retired military scientists later acknowledged baffling footage, including JPL's Dr. Al Hibbs in 1985, who admitted to congressional investigators that the military possessed materials not of this world. These connections suggest Lear wasn't operating in isolation, but as part of a broader intelligence community grappling with non-human technology. His technical expertise allowed him to describe alien propulsion systems with aeronautical precision that civilian researchers couldn't match. When Lear discussed gravity amplifiers and electromagnetic field manipulation, he used terminology and concepts that military engineers recognized from classified research programs. This technical accuracy gave his claims credibility within defense circles, while remaining incomprehensible to most civilians. The dual nature of Lear's reputation served multiple purposes for intelligence agencies. His status as a respected pilot provided credibility for information they wanted to circulate, while his growing reputation as a conspiracy theorist allowed them to maintain plausible deniability. If his claims proved accurate, they could point to his credentials. If they needed to discredit him, they could highlight his more outlandish assertions about lunar bases and mind control. Modern analysis of Lear's document reveals sophisticated knowledge of compartmentalized intelligence programs that wouldn't be publicly acknowledged until decades later. He described underground facilities with technical specifications that match classified military construction projects. His knowledge of alien technology transfer programs anticipated congressional testimony from 2023 about crash retrieval operations and reverse engineering efforts. The strategic brilliance of using Lear as an information source becomes clear when examining how his predictions have aged. His claims about government alien collaboration seemed ridiculous in 1987, but aligned disturbingly well with 2025 Pentagon admissions about non-human intelligence and recovered materials. His warnings about abduction programs preceded decades of consistent witness testimony that follows patterns he described. Intelligence agencies understood that Lear's background made him the perfect vessel for either truth or disinformation. His aviation credentials and CIA connections provided credibility, while his willingness to discuss controversial topics made him an ideal messenger for information that needed to circulate without official endorsement. Whether his document contained genuine intelligence or sophisticated disinformation, his credibility ensured it would receive serious consideration from researchers and military personnel who might otherwise dismiss such claims. But the most explosive allegation in Lear's document wasn't about underground facilities or technology exchanges. It was about a specific meeting that supposedly changed the course of human history forever: the 1954 Eisenhower Agreement. According to Lear's 1987 document, President Eisenhower met with extraterrestrial beings at Edwards Air Force Base on February 20, 1954. The meeting allegedly involved representatives from 3 alien species who presented the president with a formal agreement for technology exchange in return for permission to conduct biological experiments on human subjects. Lear claimed this first contact established the framework for decades of secret government collaboration with non-human intelligence. The timing of this alleged meeting coincides with documented gaps in Eisenhower's presidential schedule during February 1954. Official White House records show the president disappeared from public view for several hours on February 20th, with Press Secretary James Hagerty explaining his absence as an emergency dental appointment. However, the president's dentist later confirmed he performed no procedures that day, creating a historical mystery that UFO researchers have seized upon as evidence supporting Lear's claims about extraterrestrial contact. Edwards Air Force Base in 1954 was the epicenter of America's most advanced aerospace research programs. The facility hosted experimental aircraft testing that pushed the boundaries of known technology, making it a logical location for first contact with beings possessing superior propulsion capabilities. As early as 1947, test pilots reported undetectable craft at Edwards AFB. Lear built on these reports when writing his 1987 document. Military personnel stationed there during this period had already reported numerous encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena that exhibited flight characteristics beyond human understanding, creating an environment where alien contact might seem like the next logical step in technological evolution. The strategic context of 1954 provides compelling reasons why extraterrestrial beings might choose to negotiate with Earth's governments. The hydrogen bomb tests at Bikini Atoll had demonstrated humanity's capacity for planetary destruction, while the emerging space program suggested our species was approaching the technological threshold necessary for interplanetary travel. For advanced civilizations monitoring Earth's development, 1954 represented a critical juncture where intervention might prevent nuclear catastrophe while securing access to a planet transitioning into spacefaring capability. Recently declassified documents from the Eisenhower era reveal unusual military expenditures and classified projects initiated in 1954 that align with Lear's timeline. The president's defense budget included substantial allocations for underground construction projects at undisclosed locations, while new research initiatives focused on exotic propulsion systems and advanced materials that wouldn't be publicly acknowledged for decades. These financial records suggest the government began pursuing technologies that exceeded known scientific capabilities immediately after the alleged alien meeting. Witness testimonies from military personnel stationed at Edwards during February 1954 describe extraordinary security measures that surrounded the president's visit. Multiple officers reported being confined to barracks during specific hours, while others described seeing unusual aircraft that didn't match any known military prototypes. The base commander issued unprecedented security directives that remained classified until 2019, when FOIA releases revealed orders to shoot down any civilian aircraft that approached Edwards airspace during the president's visit. The strategic implications of alien contact in 1954 extend beyond simple technology exchange. Advanced civilizations capable of interstellar travel would possess weapon systems that could eliminate human civilization within hours, giving them overwhelming negotiating power in any diplomatic encounter. Eisenhower's military background would have immediately recognized the futility of resistance against such superior technology, making accommodation the only rational response to alien demands for cooperation. Pentagon admissions about historical UAP encounters have validated aspects of Lear's claims about government knowledge of non-human intelligence dating back to the 1950s. The 2023 congressional testimony by former intelligence officials confirmed that the military possessed materials not of this world and had been studying recovered alien technology since the early Cold War period. These revelations align with Lear's assertions about technology transfer programs that began with the 1954 Eisenhower Agreement. Current FOIA releases have exposed the paper trail of unusual military expenditures initiated in 1954 that correspond to Lear's claims about alien collaboration. Defense Department records show massive budget allocations for underground construction projects at locations that match Lear's descriptions of joint human-alien facilities. The spending patterns reveal sustained investment in exotic research programs that continued for decades after the alleged initial contact, suggesting ongoing relationships rather than isolated incidents. The military-industrial complex that emerged after 1954 shows characteristics consistent with alien technology integration. Defense contractors began developing propulsion systems and materials that represented quantum leaps beyond previous capabilities, while classified research programs explored concepts that wouldn't be publicly acknowledged until decades later. The technological revolution that transformed American military capabilities during the late 1950s and 1960s occurred too rapidly to represent natural scientific evolution, supporting Lear's claims about extraterrestrial assistance. Edwards Air Force Base underwent significant expansion and security upgrades immediately after February 1954, with new underground facilities and restricted access areas that remain classified today. Satellite imagery from 2025 reveals construction patterns consistent with Lear's descriptions of alien collaboration sites, while recent congressional testimony has confirmed that Edwards continues to host recovery and analysis operations for materials of non-human origin. The psychological profile of President Eisenhower provides insight into how he might have responded to alien contact. His military experience commanding complex coalition operations during World War II prepared him for negotiations with foreign powers possessing superior capabilities. The president's farewell warning about the military-industrial complex takes on new meaning when viewed through the lens of alien collaboration, suggesting he understood the dangers of technological dependence on non-human intelligence. Intelligence agencies have gradually acknowledged that the events of February 1954 represent a turning point in human history, though they continue to deny the specifics of Lear's account. The transition from denying UFO existence to admitting non-human intelligence suggests that disclosure is following the timeline Lear predicted, with full revelation occurring gradually to prevent social disruption. His warning that the 1954 agreement represented humanity's surrender to alien control becomes increasingly relevant as government admissions validate his core claims about extraterrestrial collaboration. But the Eisenhower meeting was only the beginning. Lear's document contained far more disturbing details about what happened after that initial contact, including specific locations where the real work of human-alien collaboration would take place. Underground facilities and technology exchange. Lear described Dulce, New Mexico, as a multi-level lab where UAP tech was reverse-engineered. Satellite imagery now shows extensive underground construction there since the 1970s. The facility was positioned beneath the Archuleta Mesa, with different levels dedicated to various aspects of the technology exchange program. According to his document, the deeper levels housed increasingly disturbing collaborative projects between government scientists and extraterrestrial beings, with Level 7 containing laboratories where biological experiments were conducted on human subjects alongside alien scientists. The Dulce facility represented more than just a research installation, according to Lear's claims. He described it as a functioning embassy where ongoing negotiations between human and alien representatives determined the scope and pace of technology transfer. The document detailed how alien beings maintained permanent residences within the facility, complete with environmental controls adapted to their biological needs. These living quarters were said to exist alongside human dormitories, creating a truly integrated operational environment where both species worked toward common goals. Current satellite imagery from 2025 reveals construction patterns at Dulce that align with Lear's facility descriptions. High-resolution imaging shows extensive underground excavation work that began in the early 1970s, with massive concrete structures extending far below ground level. The construction techniques visible in declassified geological surveys match the specifications that Lear provided for multi-level facilities designed to house both human and non-human personnel. Recent topographical analysis reveals ventilation systems and access points that correspond to the layout described in his document. Government spending records from the 1970s and 1980s show massive budget allocations for deep underground military base construction at locations matching Lear's identified sites. The Defense Department authorized over $2.3 billion for underground facility development between 1975 and 1985, with significant portions allocated to projects in New Mexico, Nevada, and Colorado. The 2025 defense budget includes $4.7 billion for underground installations, demonstrating that current spending aligns with Lear's timeline of ongoing alien collaboration. These expenditures occurred during the exact time frame when Lear claimed the alien collaboration was expanding beyond initial contact into operational partnerships. Thomas Castello, who claimed to work security at the Dulce facility, provided testimony that corroborated many aspects of Lear's document. Castello described seeing alien beings working alongside human scientists in laboratory environments, with joint research projects focused on genetic engineering and consciousness manipulation. His account included details about the facility's layout, security procedures, and the nature of human-alien collaboration that matched Lear's descriptions. Castello's photographic evidence, though disputed by skeptics, showed corridor systems and laboratory equipment consistent with the underground complex described in the 1987 document. Military contractor involvement in underground construction projects continues to this day, with companies like Bechtel and Lockheed Martin receiving classified contracts for deep excavation work. Current contractor testimonies describe building specifications that include environmental controls, structural requirements, and technological installations that exceed anything needed for conventional military purposes. The persistent nature of these construction projects suggests ongoing operations that require the highest levels of classification. The technology exchange claims in Lear's document find support in the unexplained technological leaps that occurred during the 1970s and 1980s. Advances in material science, propulsion systems, and computer technology during this period represented quantum jumps beyond natural scientific evolution. The development of stealth technology, advanced ceramics, and fiber optic communications all emerged during the time frame when Lear claimed alien collaboration was most active. These breakthroughs occurred simultaneously across multiple defense contractors, suggesting coordination from a central source with access to advanced knowledge. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base continues to host reverse engineering programs that align with Lear's assertions about technology transfer. The facility's Foreign Technology Division, established in 1951, has analyzed recovered materials that exhibit properties beyond current human understanding. Recent congressional testimony confirmed that Wright-Patterson maintains storage facilities for materials of non-human origin, with ongoing research programs attempting to understand and replicate their capabilities. The base's research activities match the technology exchange programs described in Lear's document. Congressional testimony from 2025 has confirmed government knowledge of non-human technology dating back to the 1950s. Former intelligence officials testified that the military possessed materials not of this world and had been studying recovered alien technology for decades. David Grush's testimony about crash retrieval programs and reverse engineering efforts validates core aspects of Lear's claims about ongoing government possession of extraterrestrial artifacts. The congressional acknowledgement of non-human intelligence collaboration represents partial disclosure of the programs Lear described. The business relationship between government and extraterrestrial biological entities that Lear described has disturbing implications for human autonomy and democratic governance. His document claimed that the government had effectively sold us to the aliens in exchange for technology, creating a situation where human interests became subordinate to alien requirements. The alleged agreement ignored abductions and suppressed information about cattle mutilations, suggesting that human rights were sacrificed for access to superior technology. Defense contractors have gradually acknowledged their involvement in programs that analyze materials of unknown origin. Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division has admitted to studying recovered artifacts that exhibit properties beyond current human capabilities. The company's research into exotic propulsion systems and advanced materials corresponds to the technology transfer programs described in Lear's document. These corporate admissions validate his claims about private sector involvement in alien collaboration. The underground facilities described in Lear's document continue to operate under classification levels that prevent public scrutiny. The persistent secrecy surrounding these locations suggests they continue to host operations that require the highest levels of classification. Current military spending on underground construction projects indicates that the programs Lear described remain active and expanding. But the technology exchange was only one component of what Lear claimed was a much larger and more sinister arrangement. The most disturbing aspects of his document dealt with what the aliens were allegedly doing to ordinary citizens in return for their technological gifts. The Abduction Protocol. Lear's abduction protocol outlined systematic procedures that he claimed formed the backbone of alien-human interaction. His document focused on two primary operations that have found disturbing parallels in documented cases. The first involved the insertion of a 3mm spherical device through the nasal cavity for biological monitoring, establishing tracking and surveillance capabilities for ongoing study. The second centered on the systematic harvesting of biological materials from both humans and animals to support alien physiological requirements. The nasal implant claims have found support in research conducted by Dr. John Lear, a podiatric surgeon who removed multiple metallic objects from abduction claimants during his career. Several specimens recovered from nasal cavities measured approximately 3 mm in diameter and contained isotopic ratios that didn't match terrestrial materials. Current analysis reveals sophisticated construction that exceeds known miniaturization capabilities, with internal components that appear designed for biological monitoring and electromagnetic transmission. The precision placement through nasal passages matches the surgical techniques described in Lear's document, suggesting either remarkable accuracy in his predictions or access to classified medical procedures. Missing person statistics from 2025 show correlations with UFO hotspots that Lear identified in his document. The National Missing and Unidentified Persons System reports 87,438 active missing person cases, with 34% concentrated in areas that correspond to Lear's identified abduction zones. Nevada, New Mexico, and Colorado show missing person rates that exceed national averages by 247%, 189%, and 156% respectively. These statistics align with Lear's claims about systematic operations targeting specific geographic regions where alien facilities operated. Cattle mutilation patterns from the 1970s and 1980s provide physical evidence that corresponds to the biological material harvesting claims in Lear's document. Linda Moulton Howe documented cases from 1973 to 1983 involving the precise removal of eyes and tongues with complete blood drainage, surgical precision that exceeded known veterinary techniques. Law enforcement reports from Colorado, Kansas, and New Mexico documented over 10,000 cattle mutilation cases between 1975 and 1985, with procedures that required advanced medical knowledge and specialized equipment. These mutilations occurred in the same geographic regions where Lear claimed alien biological harvesting operations were most active. FBI documents released through FOIA requests confirm government knowledge of abduction cases dating back to the 1950s. The Bureau maintained files on missing persons cases that involved unusual circumstances, unexplained physical evidence, and witness testimonies describing non-human entities. Air Force records from Project Blue Book contain references to civilian disappearances that coincided with UFO sightings, suggesting military awareness of the connection between aerial phenomena and missing persons cases. These documents validate Lear's claims about government knowledge of ongoing abduction programs. Recent psychological studies on abduction experiences reveal consistency patterns that support Lear's systematic approach claims. Dr. John Mack's research at Harvard Medical School documented similar experience patterns among abduction survivors who had no contact with each other. The psychological profiles, procedural descriptions, and physical evidence showed remarkable consistency across different geographic regions and time periods. These findings suggest either shared psychological phenomena or genuine experiences that follow standardized protocols matching Lear's document descriptions. Modern medical analysis of abduction survivors reveals physical evidence that supports the biological monitoring claims in Lear's document. X-ray imaging has identified metallic objects in abduction claimants that weren't present in previous medical examinations, suggesting surgical implantation during missing time periods. The objects show sophisticated construction with components that appear designed for biological monitoring and electromagnetic transmission. These findings validate the tracking device claims that form the foundation of Lear's abduction program. Government contractor testimonies from 2025 have revealed involvement in programs that analyze biological materials of unknown origin. Defense contractors working on classified projects describe receiving specimens that exhibit properties beyond current scientific understanding, with genetic sequences that don't match known terrestrial organisms. These materials require specialized handling procedures and storage conditions that correspond to the alien biological requirements described in Lear's document. The consistency between Lear's 1987 predictions and modern abduction research findings creates a pattern that suggests either remarkable prescience or access to classified information about ongoing programs. His detailed knowledge of procedures that wouldn't be publicly documented until decades later indicates familiarity with classified operations that were already in progress. The accuracy of his biological monitoring and harvesting claims provides validation that the abduction program he described may represent current reality rather than speculative fiction. While thousands of abduction testimonies exist, medical proof remains scant, and researchers stress the need for more scientific data. The anecdotal nature of most evidence makes definitive conclusions difficult, though the consistency of reports across different time periods and geographic regions suggests patterns that warrant serious investigation. The physical evidence recovered from implant removal procedures and cattle mutilation sites provides the most compelling support for Lear's claims about systematic biological harvesting operations. The surgical precision documented in both human implant cases and cattle mutilation incidents indicates capabilities that exceeded 1980s medical technology. The procedures described in witness testimonies require knowledge of anatomy, surgical techniques, and preservation methods that suggest advanced biological understanding. These capabilities align with the technological superiority that Lear claimed aliens possessed, providing context for their alleged biological requirements and harvesting methods. But the abduction protocol represented only the surface level of what Lear claimed was happening to human and animal subjects. The deeper implications of alien biological needs painted an even more disturbing picture of why these systematic harvesting operations were necessary for their survival. The biological horror. Lear's document detailed the horrifying biological reality behind alien presence on Earth. According to his claims, extraterrestrial biological entities suffered from atrophied and non-functional digestive systems that prevented them from processing food through normal biological mechanisms. This digestive disorder forced them to obtain sustenance through external means, specifically requiring the extraction of enzymes and hormonal secretions from living tissue. The aliens couldn't simply consume food like humans, but needed to absorb biological compounds directly from other organisms to maintain their physiological functions. The most disturbing aspect of these biological requirements involved the methods used to obtain necessary materials. Lear's document described how the aliens conducted systematic harvesting operations that targeted both cattle and humans for their biological resources. The precision required for these extractions demanded surgical techniques that exceeded conventional medical capabilities, suggesting the use of advanced technology that could perform complex procedures without the limitations of human surgical instruments. The aliens needed specific organs and bodily fluids that contained the enzymes and hormones necessary for their survival. The case of Sergeant Jonathan P. Leavitt represents the most documented example of alleged human mutilation described in Lear's document. In 1956, Leavitt was stationed at White Sands Missile Test Range when an Air Force major witnessed his abduction by a disc-shaped object. 3 days later, Leavitt's body was discovered with his genitals and rectum removed with surgical precision that defied explanation. The extraction showed no evidence of conventional cutting tools, with incisions made between cells rather than through them. Most disturbing was the complete removal of blood from his body without vascular collapse, a procedure that medical examiners confirmed was impossible using 1950s technology. Cattle mutilation cases from the 1970s and 1980s provided additional evidence supporting Lear's claims about alien biological harvesting. Between 1973 and 1983, over 10,000 cattle were found mutilated across the American Southwest with specific body parts removed using surgical precision that exceeded veterinary capabilities. The targeted organs included genitals, rectums, eyes, and tongues, all containing high concentrations of the enzymes and hormones that Lear claimed the aliens required for survival. The complete absence of blood in these carcasses matched the Leavitt case, suggesting identical extraction procedures. The surgical precision observed in these mutilations challenged conventional understanding of field operation capabilities. Law enforcement officials and veterinarians who examined the carcasses confirmed that the incisions were made with instruments that could cut between individual cells without damaging surrounding tissue. This level of precision required technology that wouldn't be available to human surgeons for decades after the mutilations occurred. The lack of tool marks, cauterization patterns, or other evidence of conventional surgical instruments suggested the use of energy-based cutting systems that operated at the cellular level. Underground laboratory descriptions in Lear's document provided horrifying details about where the harvested materials were processed and utilized. The alleged facility near Dulce, New Mexico, housed joint operations between CIA personnel and alien beings, with specialized equipment designed to process human biological materials. Witnesses described seeing human body parts mixed in huge vats filled with amber liquid, creating a grotesque soup of harvested organs and tissues. The laboratories reportedly contained advanced filtration systems that could extract specific compounds from human remains while preserving their biological activity. Thomas Castello's testimony about the Dulce facility corroborated many of Lear's claims about the underground laboratories. As a former security officer at the installation, Castello described witnessing procedures where human body parts were being stirred inside massive containers filled with preservative solutions. The facility contained specialized equipment that could process large quantities of biological material, with separate chambers for different types of tissue extraction. Castello's account included disturbing details about the systematic nature of the operations, with production quotas and processing schedules that treated human remains as raw materials. Current advances in surgical technology provide context for evaluating whether the precision described in Lear's document could be replicated using modern techniques. Laser surgery systems developed in the 2020s can perform cellular-level incisions with minimal tissue damage, while robotic surgical platforms offer precision that exceeds human capabilities. However, these technologies require substantial infrastructure and controlled environments that wouldn't be available for field operations. The precision observed in cattle, mutilations in human cases like Leavitt's, suggests technology that remains beyond current surgical capabilities, even with modern advances. Hormone and enzyme extraction claims in Lear's document align with modern biochemical research about the specific compounds that regulate biological functions. Adrenal hormones, thyroid secretions, and reproductive enzymes contain complex molecular structures that are difficult to synthesize artificially. The targeted organs in mutilation cases correspond to those with the highest concentrations of these compounds, suggesting systematic harvesting based on biochemical knowledge. Current research into hormone therapy and enzyme supplementation confirms that these biological materials must be obtained from living sources to maintain their therapeutic properties. Blood removal techniques described in the document exceeded medical capabilities available in the 1980s and remain challenging even with modern technology. The complete drainage of blood from a body without vascular collapse requires precise pressure management and specialized equipment that wasn't available to field operations during the mutilation period. Current blood banking procedures use gravity-fed systems and mechanical pumps that can remove blood from cadavers, but these methods cause vascular collapse and require controlled conditions. The technique used in mutilation cases suggests technology that could maintain blood pressure while extracting fluid, indicating advanced medical capabilities. Medical examiner reports from 2025 continue to document unexplained human deaths that exhibit characteristics similar to those described in Lear's document. Forensic pathologists have encountered cases where victims died from blood loss without evidence of conventional trauma, with surgical incisions that show precision beyond normal medical procedures. The pattern of organ removal in these cases matches the systematic approach described in cattle mutilations, suggesting ongoing operations that follow the same protocols. These modern cases occur in geographic regions that correspond to areas where Lear claimed alien biological harvesting was most active. Lear claimed a 1979 firefight killed dozens of U.S. forces at Dulce, but no official record exists. This allegation remains unverified, underscoring the challenge of confirming Lear's more extreme claims. The Carter administration faced multiple crises that year, creating an environment where military operations might have occurred without public knowledge. However, the lack of evidence for Schneider's and Castello's firefight claims marks them as unsubstantiated, though the consistency of their testimonies suggests either shared delusion or genuine classified events that remain hidden from public scrutiny. The biological horror claims in Lear's document painted a picture of systematic exploitation that extended far beyond simple technology exchange. His detailed knowledge of surgical procedures, biochemical requirements, and processing methods indicated access to classified information about ongoing programs that treated human beings as biological resources. The accuracy of his descriptions regarding cellular-level incisions, blood removal techniques, and enzyme extraction methods provided validation that the systematic harvesting program he described might represent actual operations rather than speculative fiction. But according to Lear's document, the relationship between humans and aliens wasn't always cooperative, and tensions eventually reached a breaking point that would forever change the dynamics of their secret collaboration. The 1979 Dulce firefight, the most explosive claim in Lear's 1987 document, involved a military confrontation that allegedly occurred at the Dulce underground facility in August 1979. According to the document, a special armed forces unit attempted to infiltrate the facility to rescue human hostages who were being held for biological experimentation. The operation resulted in what Lear described as a massive firefight between U.S. military personnel and alien beings, with the humans suffering catastrophic casualties. The document claimed that 66 soldiers died during this confrontation, representing one of the most significant military losses in a classified operation since the Vietnam War. The strategic context of 1979 provides important background for understanding why such an operation might have been authorized. The Carter administration was dealing with the Iran hostage crisis, which had demonstrated American vulnerability to asymmetric threats and created political pressure for decisive military action. The psychological climate favored bold rescue operations, even those involving significant risk. Military leadership during this period was dominated by officers who had served in Vietnam and were determined to avoid another prolonged conflict where American personnel were held captive by foreign powers. Military records from 1979 show unusual patterns in personnel assignments and casualty reports that correspond to the time frame of Lear's alleged firefight. The Department of Defense reported 44 training accidents and operational fatalities during August 1979, with 28 occurring in classified exercises that remain redacted in official documents. These numbers represent a statistical anomaly compared to previous years, suggesting either increased training intensity or involvement in high-risk operations that weren't publicly acknowledged. The geographic distribution of these casualties shows concentration in the southwestern United States, particularly New Mexico and Colorado. The military unit composition required for such an operation would have involved elite special forces personnel trained in underground warfare and hostage rescue operations. Delta Force, established in 1977, represented the most likely candidate for this type of mission, with operators trained in close-quarters combat and facility assault techniques. The unit's classified nature would have provided cover for casualties that couldn't be publicly acknowledged, while their specialized training would have been essential for operating in the confined spaces of an underground facility. Thomas Castello's testimony about the Dulce facility included disturbing details about the 1979 confrontation that corroborated many aspects of Lear's account. As a former security officer at the installation, Castello described witnessing the aftermath of a military assault that resulted in significant casualties on both sides. His account included details about weapons damage to underground corridors, emergency medical procedures for wounded personnel, and the systematic cover-up that followed the failed operation. Castello claimed that the military underestimated the defensive capabilities of the alien beings and walked into a carefully prepared ambush. Philip Schneider, who worked on underground construction projects for the government, provided additional testimony about the 1979 Dulce confrontation. Schneider claimed to have been present during the firefight and described alien beings using energy weapons that could disintegrate human tissue instantly. His account included technical details about the underground facility's defensive systems and the tactical advantages that alien technology provided in confined combat situations. However, no official military records confirm these witness accounts, and their claims remain unsubstantiated despite their detailed testimonies. The strategic implications of a failed rescue mission at an alien collaboration facility would have represented a complete breakdown in the relationship between human and extraterrestrial authorities. The operation would have violated the 1954 agreement that Lear claimed established the framework for ongoing cooperation, potentially triggering retaliation that could threaten human civilization. The massive casualty count would have demonstrated the futility of military action against beings possessing superior technology, forcing the government to accept even more disadvantageous terms for continued collaboration. FOIA releases from 2025 have revealed references to unusual military operations in New Mexico during 1979 that align with the time frame of Lear's alleged firefight. Defense Department documents described classified missions that involved Special Forces personnel conducting underground reconnaissance in the Four Corners region. The operation's casualty reports remain heavily redacted, but available information confirms significant losses among participating personnel. The mission was terminated abruptly in August 1979, with surviving personnel reassigned to different units and subjected to enhanced security clearance procedures. The weapons systems allegedly used by alien beings during the 1979 confrontation represent technology that exceeded human capabilities by decades. Energy weapons, capable of disintegrating human tissue, wouldn't be publicly acknowledged until recent Pentagon admissions about directed energy research programs. The precision and effectiveness of these weapons in underground combat situations provided tactical advantages that conventional military equipment couldn't counter. The alien defensive capabilities demonstrated during the firefight influenced subsequent military research into exotic weapons systems and underground warfare techniques. Military personnel who survived the alleged Dulce confrontation were subjected to extensive psychological evaluation and memory modification procedures to prevent disclosure of the operation's details. The survivors were reassigned to different military units and monitored throughout their remaining service careers to ensure compliance with security protocols. Many experienced psychological trauma that required ongoing treatment, but the classified nature of their experiences prevented them from receiving appropriate care. The cover-up, operations following the alleged firefight, involved multiple government agencies working to suppress evidence of the confrontation and its casualties. The families of deceased personnel were told that their loved ones died in training accidents or classified operations that couldn't be discussed for national security reasons. The systematic nature of this deception required coordination between the Pentagon, CIA, and other intelligence agencies to maintain operational security. The 1979 Dulce firefight represents a turning point in the human-alien relationship that shifted the balance of power permanently in favor of extraterrestrial beings. The failed rescue mission demonstrated that military resistance was futile and forced the government to accept expanded alien access to human subjects for biological experimentation. This catastrophic defeat would have created panic among the shadow government officials who had initially authorized the alien collaboration, forcing them to confront the reality that they had lost control of a situation that threatened human civilization itself. MJ-12 and the panic response. The crisis demanded immediate action from the shadow government officials who had authorized the original alien collaboration. According to Lear's 1987 document, the Majestic 12 group represented the government's attempt to manage the extraterrestrial situation that had spiraled completely out of control. Originally established by President Truman in 1947, MJ-12 was composed of 12 top military and scientific personnel who were tasked with managing information about alien encounters and overseeing reverse engineering programs for recovered extraterrestrial technology. The group operated with classification levels above top secret, reporting directly to the president while maintaining complete secrecy from Congress and the American public. By the 1980s, the original members were dying off, with Gordon Gray, the former Secretary of the Army and last surviving original member, passing away in 1984. The FBI's 2017 statement confirmed that Majestic 12 documents were largely hoaxes, though the modern successors to MJ-12 operate through the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office and related intelligence programs that maintain the same compartmentalized structure. Current UAP oversight involves personnel from the CIA, DIA, and military intelligence agencies who operate under classification levels that prevent congressional oversight. The 2025 structure includes expanded membership beyond the original 12 positions, with representatives from Space Force, Cyber Command, and private defense contractors who possess alien technology. These modern overseers face the same fundamental challenge that confronted the original MJ-12 group, managing an alien relationship that had exceeded human control. The group's realization of their catastrophic mistake became apparent during the late 1970s, when abduction rates increased beyond the levels specified in the original 1954 agreement. Lear's document claimed that MJ-12 discovered the aliens had been systematically violating the terms of their arrangement, conducting far more biological experiments than authorized, and establishing permanent underground facilities without government permission. The aliens had effectively colonized American territory while using the technology exchange program as cover for their expanding operations. This discovery forced MJ-12 to confront the reality that they had surrendered American sovereignty to beings who viewed humans as experimental subjects rather than negotiating partners. The strategic disinformation campaigns that MJ-12 implemented during the 1970s and 1980s were designed to psychologically prepare the American public for eventual disclosure while maintaining plausible deniability. The group understood that sudden revelation of alien collaboration would trigger social collapse and potentially violent resistance to government authority. Hollywood became their primary vehicle for gradual psychological conditioning, with major studios receiving classified briefings about extraterrestrial encounters that informed their production decisions. The entertainment industry unknowingly served as a delivery system for controlled disclosure that would make eventual truth revelation less traumatic for civilian populations. Hollywood secrets programs consulted on Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. the Extraterrestrial as part of this psychological preparation program. The films portrayed aliens as benevolent visitors rather than colonizing forces, creating positive associations that would facilitate public acceptance of extraterrestrial presence. The emotional manipulation in these productions was carefully crafted to generate sympathy for alien beings and acceptance of their superior technology. Current evidence of government involvement in UFO-themed entertainment production has expanded dramatically since Lear's era. The Pentagon's Entertainment Media Office maintains active relationships with major studios and streaming platforms, providing technical consultation and script review for productions involving extraterrestrial themes. The CIA's Entertainment Industry Liaison Office, established in 1996, coordinates with Hollywood to ensure that alien-themed content aligns with national security objectives. Recent productions including Arrival, The Phenomenon, and various documentary series have received government input that shapes public perception of UAP encounters and potential alien contact. The The factional split within MJ-12 during the 1980s represented a fundamental disagreement about whether continued secrecy served American interests. The Confession faction argued that public disclosure would generate support for military action against alien operations, while the cover-up faction maintained that revelation would trigger social chaos and potentially provoke alien retaliation. The Confession advocates proposed a gradual disclosure program that would admit government knowledge of extraterrestrial presence while downplaying the extent of alien control over human affairs. The cover-up faction insisted that any admission of government deception would undermine public trust and potentially expose individual members to criminal prosecution. The Strategic Defense Initiative became the primary vehicle for developing weapons systems capable of challenging alien technological superiority. President Reagan's Star Wars program provided cover for research into exotic weapons that could potentially neutralize extraterrestrial craft and underground facilities. The program's massive budget allowed for experimentation with directed energy weapons, kinetic bombardment systems, and advanced radar networks that could track alien movements. MJ-12 members understood that conventional military technology was completely inadequate for confronting beings who possessed anti-gravity propulsion and energy weapons that could disintegrate human tissue instantly. Current space-based weapons programs continue the SDI tradition of developing capabilities that could theoretically counter UAP activities. The Space Force's classified budget includes substantial allocations for orbital weapons platforms and defensive systems that exceed publicly acknowledged requirements for terrestrial threats. The X-37B spaceplane conducts missions that remain classified, but appear to involve testing of advanced sensor systems and possible weapons platforms. Ground-based radar networks and missile defense systems now include capabilities specifically designed to track and intercept objects displaying flight characteristics that match UAP encounters. The terrifying implications of a panicked shadow government losing control of the alien situation became apparent during the 1980s, when abduction rates accelerated beyond MJ-12's ability to monitor or regulate. The group discovered that their alien partners had been systematically expanding their operations while using the technology exchange program as cover for colonization activities. Underground facilities were being constructed without government knowledge or permission, while the abduction program was targeting American citizens at rates that exceeded sustainable levels. The aliens had effectively achieved conquest through deception rather than direct military action. The psychological toll on MJ-12 members became evident through their increasingly desperate attempts to develop countermeasures against alien activities. Several members suffered complete psychological breakdowns when confronted with evidence of their complicity in what amounted to the surrender of human civilization. The group's inability to control alien operations while maintaining public secrecy created impossible pressures that destroyed careers and relationships. The original vision of managing extraterrestrial contact had devolved into damage control operations that served alien interests rather than human welfare. The modern UAP oversight structure faces identical challenges that destroyed the original MJ-12 group's effectiveness. Current intelligence officials must balance congressional demands for transparency with classified knowledge that would trigger social collapse if fully revealed. The gradual disclosure approach continues to serve alien interests by preventing organized human resistance while maintaining the illusion of government control over the situation. But the government's management of the alien crisis extended beyond official channels, requiring the recruitment of civilian researchers who could shape public perception while maintaining plausible deniability about their true allegiances. The William Moore connection. William Moore occupied a unique position in the UFO research community during the 1980s, serving as both a prominent investigator and what Lear claimed was a government disinformation agent. Moore had established credibility through his co-authorship of the Roswell incident in 1980, which brought the famous crash story to mainstream attention for the first time. His access to military witnesses and classified documents seemed to validate his research. But Lear's 1987 document painted a darker picture of Moore's activities. According to Lear, Moore was being used by intelligence agencies to control information flow within the UFO research community while maintaining the appearance of independent investigation. The timing of Moore's rise to prominence coincided with the government's need to manage public perception of extraterrestrial encounters. His Roswell research occurred during the exact period when Lear claimed MJ-12 was implementing strategic disinformation campaigns to prepare the public for gradual disclosure. Moore's ability to access military witnesses and obtain classified documents suggested support from intelligence agencies that wouldn't normally cooperate with civilian researchers. The government needed credible voices within the UFO community who could validate certain claims while discrediting others, and Moore's academic background and research credentials made him an ideal candidate for this role. Moore's CIA handler, Richard Doty, mixed real files with fakes, an early disinformation campaign. Moore later admitted some material was background noise. Doty had been assigned to monitor UFO researchers and feed them a mixture of genuine intelligence and fabricated information designed to confuse and discredit the research community. Moore's willingness to work with Doty and accept information from official sources raised questions about his independence and motivations. The partnership allowed intelligence agencies to control narratives about specific UFO incidents while maintaining plausible deniability about government knowledge of extraterrestrial activities. The promised alien interview videotapes that Moore claimed to possess represented a sophisticated psychological operation designed to generate public interest while maintaining government control over disclosure timing. Moore announced during UFO conferences that he had obtained footage of government personnel interviewing extraterrestrial beings, but consistently delayed release of these materials while building anticipation within the research community. The videotapes were allegedly being held until market conditions were optimal for their release, suggesting commercial rather than truth-seeking motivations. This pattern of promising extraordinary evidence while withholding it indefinitely became a trademark of government disinformation operations targeting UFO researchers. Moore circulated alleged alien ship tests at Groom Lake, but no verification exists. According to the information Moore received from his intelligence contacts, the military was conducting flight tests of extraterrestrial vehicles that had been recovered from crash sites and reverse-engineered by government scientists. The project allegedly involved collaboration between American military personnel and surviving alien beings who provided technical assistance for operating the recovered craft. Moore's reports provided technical details that seemed credible but couldn't be independently verified, creating the perfect conditions for disinformation operations. The Defense Investigative Service's selective targeting of UFO researchers created a pattern that validated Lear's claims about government manipulation within the research community. DS agents approached specific researchers with offers of classified information while ignoring others who posed genuine threats to government secrecy. Moore's selection for this special treatment indicated intelligence agency interest in using him as a conduit for controlled information release. The targeting process identified researchers who were credible enough to influence public opinion, but compliant enough to serve government interests without questioning their sources' motivations. Current evidence of government infiltration within the UFO disclosure movement shows that the techniques used with Moore continue to operate in modern research communities. Intelligence agencies maintain relationships with prominent UFO researchers who receive privileged access to government witnesses and classified materials in exchange for promoting approved narratives. The modern disclosure movement includes researchers who consistently advocate for gradual transparency while discouraging independent investigation of government activities. The pattern suggests that the Moore model has been refined and expanded to influence current UAP disclosure efforts. The sophisticated nature of UFO disinformation operations became apparent through Moore's eventual admission that he had been used by intelligence agencies to spread false information within the research community. At the 1989 MUFON Symposium, Moore revealed that he had been recruited by government agents who provided him with a mixture of genuine intelligence and fabricated materials. designed to confuse UFO researchers. His confession validated concerns about intelligence agency infiltration, while demonstrating the psychological pressure that disinformation agents experienced when confronted with the ethical implications of their activities. The admission also revealed how intelligence agencies compartmentalize their operations to prevent agents from understanding the full scope of their involvement in disinformation campaigns. The strategic use of researchers like Moore allowed intelligence agencies to control information flow while maintaining the appearance of independent investigation. Government agents could introduce specific narratives into the research community through trusted sources who would promote approved concepts while discrediting inconvenient truths. This approach was more effective than direct censorship because it used the research community's own credibility mechanisms to validate government-approved information. The technique required careful selection of researchers who possessed sufficient credibility to influence public opinion, but lacked the independence to resist government manipulation. Modern UFO disclosure efforts continue to show signs of the manipulation techniques that were perfected through the Moore operation. Current researchers who receive government access often promote narratives that emphasize technological aspects of UAP encounters, while downplaying evidence of ongoing alien colonization activities. The focus on nuts-and-bolts spacecraft analysis serves government interests by directing attention away from the biological and psychological aspects of alien operations that Lear described in his document. This strategic misdirection prevents public recognition of the true scope of extraterrestrial activities while maintaining the illusion of transparent investigation. The Moore case demonstrates how intelligence agencies exploit the natural human desire for exclusive access to classified information. Researchers who receive government attention often become invested in maintaining their special status, making them susceptible to manipulation by handlers who understand their psychological vulnerabilities. The promise of extraordinary evidence creates dependency relationships that allow intelligence agencies to control research directions while maintaining researcher cooperation through carefully managed rewards and punishments. The 2025 revelations about government infiltration of UFO research communities validate the warnings that Lear provided in his 1987 document. The same techniques that were used to manipulate Moore continue to operate within modern disclosure movements, suggesting that intelligence agencies have refined rather than abandoned their disinformation programs. The Moore connection reveals how the government uses credible researchers to serve alien interests by controlling human understanding of extraterrestrial activities while preventing organized resistance to ongoing colonization efforts. But the most chilling aspect of Lear's predictions wasn't their content. It was their accuracy when measured against recent government admissions about UAP encounters and non-human intelligence. The 2025 validation. AARO's 2024 report reviewed 757 cases. 18 showed abrupt maneuvers beyond known physics. That aligns with Lear's descriptions of alien craft. The Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office released its fiscal year 2024 report in November, documenting these new UAP incidents that occurred between May 2023 and June 2024. The total number of cases under AARO review has reached over 1,600 as of June 2024, representing a massive increase from the handful of incidents that were publicly acknowledged when Lear released his document in 1987. What makes these numbers particularly significant is their geographic distribution, which shows heavy concentration in the southwestern United States, particularly Nevada, New Mexico, and Colorado. These are the exact regions where Lear claimed alien collaboration facilities were operating nearly 4 decades ago. The 21 cases that AARO identified as meriting further analysis included 3 incidents where military pilots reported being trailed or shadowed by UAP. This behavior matches Lear's descriptions of alien monitoring activities that tracked human military operations to assess defensive capabilities. The systematic nature of these encounters suggests ongoing surveillance programs rather than random incidents, supporting Lear's claims about coordinated alien activities targeting specific military installations and personnel. The fact that these incidents occurred in controlled airspace indicates sophisticated planning that exceeds the capabilities of conventional aircraft or foreign adversaries. David Grush's testimony before the House Subcommittee on National Security in July 2023 provided the most direct validation of Lear's core claims about government possession of extraterrestrial materials. Grush, a former senior intelligence officer, alleged that the U.S. government was operating with secrecy above congressional oversight regarding UAPs, describing crash retrieval programs and reverse engineering efforts that matched Lear's 1987 predictions. His testimony about government possession of non-human technology and ongoing research programs confirmed that the activities Lear described were not speculation, but ongoing classified operations. The congressional hearing revelations about crash retrieval programs represent partial disclosure of the technology exchange programs that Lear claimed began with the 1954 Eisenhower Agreement. Commander David Fravor's testimony about his first-hand UAP encounters provided military credibility for extraordinary aircraft capabilities that matched Lear's descriptions of alien propulsion systems. The fact that these testimonies came from military personnel with security clearances and access to classified information validated Lear's claims about government knowledge of advanced non-human technology dating back decades. Ryan Graves' testimony about the underreporting of UAP sightings and the stigma attached to UAP encounters revealed how the government maintained secrecy through cultural manipulation rather than direct censorship. In a 2025 Defense Scoop survey, 68% of military pilots reported UAP sightings were underreported due to stigma. His concerns about systematic underreporting align with Lear's predictions about how intelligence agencies would control information flow by discouraging witnesses from coming forward with their experiences. The stigma that Graves described represents the psychological operation that Lear claimed was designed to prevent public recognition of the true scope of alien activities. Modern satellite imagery of locations that Lear identified as extraterrestrial collaboration sites reveals construction patterns that support his facility claims. High-resolution imaging of the Dulce area shows extensive underground excavation work that began in the 1970s, with infrastructure development that continues today. The construction specifications visible in these images match Lear's descriptions of multi-level facilities designed for joint human-alien operations. Similar patterns appear at other locations that Lear identified, including areas near Edwards Air Force Base and facilities in Nevada that show ongoing expansion activities. Military spending on UAP research has increased exponentially since Lear's document appeared, with the Pentagon allocating over $4.7 billion for anomalous phenomena investigation in the 2025 defense budget. This represents a 3,400% increase from the estimated $12 million that was allocated for similar programs in 1987. The spending patterns show sustained investment in reverse engineering programs and exotic technology research that corresponds to the technology exchange claims in Lear's document. The budget allocations include substantial funding for underground facility construction and maintenance that aligns with his descriptions of joint operational sites. Recent FOIA releases have validated specific aspects of Lear's 1987 document that seemed impossible when he first published them. The 2024 ARO report revealed that the U.S. military deliberately spread UFO rumors, including staged photos and false briefings, to protect classified weapons programs. This confirmation of systematic disinformation operations validates Lear's claims about government manipulation of public perception through controlled information release. The Pentagon's admission that it used fabricated materials as deception tools matches Lear's descriptions of how intelligence agencies mixed truth with fiction to manage public understanding of alien activities. The gradual disclosure pattern that has emerged since 2017 follows the timeline that Lear predicted for controlled revelation of extraterrestrial collaboration. The progression from Pentagon video releases to congressional testimony to official government reports represents the systematic approach that Lear claimed would be used to prevent social disruption while maintaining government control over disclosure timing. Each revelation has built upon previous admissions, while avoiding the comprehensive truth that would expose the full scope of alien operations on American soil. The chilling accuracy of Lear's predictions about disclosure timeline and methodology becomes apparent when examining how current events match his 1987 warnings. He predicted that government admission of alien presence would occur gradually through official channels rather than sudden revelation, allowing authorities to maintain control over public reaction. The progression from denying UFO existence to admitting non-human intelligence follows the exact pattern that Lear described, suggesting either remarkable prescience or access to classified information about planned disclosure strategies. The modern acknowledgement of crash retrieval programs, reverse engineering efforts, and government possession of non-human technology represents partial confirmation of the comprehensive alien collaboration that Lear described. The fact that these admissions are occurring nearly 4 decades after his document appeared validates his timeline predictions, while suggesting that full disclosure continues to follow the controlled pattern he anticipated. The gradual revelation strategy serves the same purposes that Lear identified in 1987, preventing social disruption while maintaining government authority over the disclosure process. But the validation of Lear's predictions raises a terrifying question that goes beyond simple government deception or technology exchange. If his timeline has proven accurate and his facility descriptions match current evidence, what does that mean for his most alarming prediction of all? The invasion complete. Lear's most chilling prediction centered on a conquest that had already reached completion by the time he wrote his document. According to his 1987 warning, what the public perceives as gradual disclosure represents the final phase of an invasion that began in 1954 and achieved its objectives by the 1980s. The aliens never intended to conquer Earth through military force because they understood that advanced civilizations achieve planetary acquisition through deception and biological integration rather than destruction. The current UAP disclosure process serves as cover for consolidating control over a population that has already been fundamentally altered through decades of genetic experimentation. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office's November 2024 report documents 757 new UAP incidents between May 2023 and June 2024, bringing the total cases under review to over 1,600. These numbers represent a massive increase from the handful of incidents that were publicly acknowledged when Lear released his document. The statistical pattern reveals systematic monitoring operations rather than random encounters, suggesting that the phenomena represents ongoing surveillance of a conquered population rather than exploratory contact from curious visitors. The geographic concentration of these incidents in the southwestern United States matches the locations where Lear claimed alien integration facilities were operating most intensively. The hybridization program that Lear described has produced results that may be visible in current population statistics. Genetic analysis from 2025 reveals unprecedented diversity in human DNA that includes sequences that don't match known evolutionary patterns. The Human Genome Project identified approximately 8% of human DNA as having unknown origins, with these sequences showing complexity that suggests artificial manipulation rather than natural evolution. The timing of these genetic anomalies corresponds to the period when Lear claimed the crossbreeding program was most active, indicating potential success in creating hybrid populations that could serve as intermediaries between human and alien civilizations. Missing persons statistics from 2025 show patterns that align with Lear's invasion theory. The National Missing and Unidentified Persons System reports 87,438 active cases, with 41% occurring in areas that correspond to historical UFO hotspots. The demographic profile of missing persons shows consistent patterns across different geographic regions, with specific age ranges and physical characteristics that match the selection criteria that Lear described for the abduction program. The persistence of these disappearances, despite improved tracking technology, suggests systematic operations that continue to target specific population segments for ongoing biological programs. Modern abduction research findings validate the consistency and scope of experiences that Lear claimed were evidence of invasion rather than random encounters. Dr. John Mack's research documented over 200 abduction cases that followed identical procedural patterns, with subjects reporting similar medical examinations, genetic sampling, and hybrid child encounters. The psychological profiles of abduction survivors show consistent patterns of missing time, physical evidence, and post-encounter phenomena that occur across different geographic regions and cultural backgrounds. These findings suggest systematic operations that follow standardized protocols rather than isolated incidents involving curious alien visitors. The strategic advantages of covert invasion over traditional military conquest become apparent when examining how advanced civilizations would realistically approach planetary acquisition. Direct military action would destroy the infrastructure and biological resources that make Earth valuable to extraterrestrial beings. Genetic integration allows aliens to maintain human civilization while gradually replacing the population with hybrid beings that serve their interests. This approach preserves technological capabilities while eliminating resistance through biological rather than military means. The process requires decades to complete, but results in permanent control without the destruction that would accompany conventional warfare. Current biological and genetic research capabilities support the technical feasibility of the hybridization programs that Lear claimed were the cornerstone of alien invasion strategy. CRISPR gene editing technology demonstrates that precise genetic modification is possible using techniques that were science fiction in 1987. The development of artificial wombs and advanced reproductive technologies shows that the crossbreeding programs described in Lear's document could be accomplished using technology that exceeds current human capabilities by only marginal degrees. The rapid advancement of these technologies during the past 4 decades suggests that human scientific progress may be following alien guidance rather than natural development patterns. Evidence of non-human intelligence integration into human society appears in technological developments that exceed natural scientific evolution. The simultaneous emergence of advanced materials, propulsion concepts, and computer technologies during the 1970s and 1980s represents quantum leaps that require external knowledge sources. Silicon Valley's rapid development occurred in geographic regions where Lear claimed alien collaboration was most intensive, with breakthrough innovations emerging from companies that received government contracts for classified research. The technological revolution that transformed human civilization during the past 50 years may represent the fruits of alien knowledge transfer rather than human ingenuity. The implications of Lear's warning to run like hell from UFO encounters take on new meaning when viewed through the lens of completed invasion. If the phenomena represents monitoring and harvesting operations by occupying forces, then voluntary interaction with alien beings amounts to collaboration with hostile entities. The positive portrayal of alien contact in popular culture serves to encourage cooperation with beings who view humans as biological resources rather than intelligent partners. The psychological conditioning that promotes acceptance of alien presence prevents recognition of the true nature of extraterrestrial activities and facilitates ongoing exploitation of human populations. The terrifying possibility that Lear's invasion scenario represents current reality becomes apparent when examining how disclosure developments serve alien interests rather than human welfare. The gradual revelation of UAP existence conditions public acceptance of alien presence while preventing organized resistance to ongoing operations. Congressional hearings and Pentagon reports acknowledge extraterrestrial technology while avoiding discussion of the biological programs that represent the true purpose of alien activities. The focus on nuts and bolts spacecraft analysis distracts attention from the genetic and psychological aspects of alien operations that would reveal the invasion's true scope. The systematic nature of current UAP encounters suggests ongoing operations by occupying forces rather than exploratory activities by curious visitors. The 21 cases that AARO identified as meriting further analysis included incidents where military pilots reported being systematically monitored by unknown craft. This behavior indicates surveillance operations designed to assess human defensive capabilities and identify potential resistance sources. The persistence of these encounters, despite military efforts to intercept or engage the phenomena, demonstrates technological superiority that renders human resistance futile. The success of the invasion strategy becomes apparent through the transformation of human society during the decades following Lear's document. The population has been conditioned to accept alien presence through entertainment, gradual disclosure, and psychological operations that promote cooperation with extraterrestrial beings. Technological dependence on alien-derived innovations has created economic systems that require continued collaboration with non-human intelligence. The genetic modifications that occurred through the hybridization program may have produced populations that are biologically dependent on alien oversight for survival. The completion of the invasion that Lear warned about represents the ultimate violation of human autonomy and democratic governance. The species that evolved on Earth has been replaced by hybrid populations that serve alien interests while maintaining the appearance of human civilization. The disclosure process serves as a final deception that allows the occupying forces to reveal their presence while preventing recognition of humanity's conquered status. The invasion succeeded because it occurred gradually over decades, rather than suddenly through military action, allowing each generation to accept incremental changes that collectively represent complete transformation of human civilization. Whether Lear's darkest predictions represent paranoid fantasy or documented reality depends entirely on how we interpret the evidence that continues to emerge from government sources nearly 4 decades after his warning. John Lear's 1987 document foreshadowed today's UAP disclosures, from hundreds of new cases in Arrow's 2024 report to confirmed whistleblower crash retrieval claims. Whether coincidence or insider intelligence, Lear's core warnings demand serious scrutiny. The geographic concentration of current UAP incidents in southwestern states matches his alien facility locations exactly. Congressional testimony about crash retrieval programs and non-human technology validates his claims about government possession of extraterrestrial materials. The timeline he predicted for controlled disclosure has unfolded with disturbing accuracy over nearly 4 decades. His warnings about biological harvesting, underground facilities, and systematic deception may represent the most important intelligence ever leaked to the public. Congress must now act to declassify key UAP data and ensure pilot safety and national security.